Talk Family. Let's talk family about the things that impact us as individual family members, as a whole, as a community family, and as a country family. Let's Talk Family Live. Let's Talk Family is a program brought to you by Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries is a counseling organization that primarily offers individual, family, and relationship counseling. We have counselors who are available to speak on a number of subjects for your conferences for church, school, or work. Family Life Ministries is also known for its media programs, the divorce recovery program Fresh Start, and its company counseling package, the Employee Assistance Program. Visit our website at www.familylifeministriesjamaica.com. Find us on Facebook at FLM Family Life Ministries or on Instagram at FLMJA, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA. We'll give our numbers at the end of this program. Now here's today's episode of Let's Talk Family.
Welcome to Let's Talk Family. I'm your host, Audra Williams. Before we begin, here's your verse for this evening. Mark 12, verse 31. It says, "The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." Hi, everyone. When we think of neighbors, we tend to see them as those persons living beside us, or maybe even a few doors up or down. But really, who are our neighbors? And what are they to us and we to them? Well, that's a question I'm going to leave you to answer on your own this time. Because in this program, we want to look at a kind of neighbor you probably never considered to be your neighbor, the church. Yup. And to help us explore their neighborliness is the president of the Jamaica Council of Churches, Reverend Newton Dixon. Hello, Rev. How are you?
Hi, Audra. I am well, thank God, dodging COVID and staying safe.
Aren't we all? So tell us about the churches within the JCC.
The JCC is the fellowship of churches that include the Anglican, Baptist, Moravian, Roman Catholic, Methodist. Actually, 3 different branches of Methodist churches in the JCC. There's the Methodist Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And there's also the Salvation Army, the Religious Society, and I hope I have not left anyone out. And there are affiliate Christian organizations or agencies which are also members.
So tell us about what they have been doing as our neighbors, food and education.
Well, let's start with education. The history of education in Jamaica, and I'm sure in other parts of the world, cannot begin without a conversation or an examination of the church's role. For the 4 or so centuries that education has been taking place in Jamaica, the church has been at the forefront of this exercise. So you look across the country and many of our traditional schools and our traditional high schools were institutions that were started by churches. And we can think of a few, some come to mind. But the churches have been involved in education, not just at that secondary level, but churches are involved in early childhood education and in the primary level as well. And in a few instances, there are churches involved in the tertiary level of the education sector. In terms of food, the churches have always understood one of their primary roles, or we could use the word mandate, is to care for those who are in need, fundamentally based on the understanding of the love for the neighbor as oneself and the understanding of Jesus's instructions to take care of those who are sick and hungry and naked and in prison and in hospitals. So the provision of food is one of our fundamental roles. When people come to us with the need for food, it is almost reflexive for churches to provide food. So for a long time, churches have had soup kitchens and food kitchens and street distributions of lunches and the like. So historically, both in education, where food is concerned, churches have felt these are 2 basic roles that we ought to play.
Indeed, and I agree with you. Is it possible, though, for you to say how many persons or families or communities that the church has fed and educated?
We are in the process of compiling a database of the services offered by our churches in both of these areas. In the area of education, there's a committee called the Ecumenical Education Committee, brings together most, if not all, of the churches that are involved in education and have operating institutions. This organization obviously represents a large number of institutions, and from those institutions, hundreds and thousands of persons have benefited from their services. With respect to food, we are also putting together the database predicated primarily by the present pandemic to get a sense of how we have been meeting the needs that exist, and also to find out where the gaps may be and how we can address those gaps. So to give you a number is difficult, but as from where I sit, my guess based on the data we have so far, feeding in excess of 4,500 persons on a weekly basis through our soup kitchens and through care packages and regular food distribution, that could probably be another 5 or 6,000. So I'd say on a monthly basis, churches are probably serving well over 10 or 12,000 meals or packages to needy persons.
Wow, that is a lot. But how do you decide who needs it most?
The question of need is really one that is addressed by the fact that it is presented to us. We try not to discriminate too much as to who needs and who needs more. However, in some targeted programs, there are some specific demographic sectors of our society that are given special attention. I'd like to single out two. We've come to understand, and it was underscored by a study which was disclosed by UNICEF a couple of weeks ago, that many families are trying to adjust to the COVID pandemic by either reducing the quality of their meals or the quantity. So some families are removing one meal and having maybe 2 instead of 3, or some families are having the 3 meals but have removed maybe the protein. We have tried to address especially the lowest and the least in the social strata. So we have primarily been focusing on the poorest of the poor. But there's also another group which suffers discrimination due to stigmatization as a result of their condition. And we're referring primarily to persons living with HIV. We have been intentional in reaching out to this group of persons because of the fact that they have the added burden of stigmatization and discrimination. And so we've been helping that particular demographic as well.
Wow, that is awesome. And I know that usually as a church, we get kind of beaten for ignoring particular persons because of their lifestyles or because of the diseases that they have. But
Absolutely.
We are now realizing that, no, we are helping these persons. But
Absolutely.
As you have mentioned, COVID, has it impacted the church's ministry?
Tremendously. Most of us are aware and probably think that the only thing we identify with church is the collection of tithes and worship. The truth is, the collection of offerings and tithes are really the basis on which most churches fund their programs for outreach and relief. And as can be appreciated, the COVID pandemic has severely affected families and their incomes, which dominoes into the intake churches have. So churches now have had to be very creative, both in the fundraising side as well as the program side. Funds have dried up for some, funds have dramatically decreased for others, but somehow churches continue to find creative ways of feeding those who need to be fed. And concerns and deliberations are taking place where the pandemic is affecting schools. We're actively engaging the issue of the reopening of schools as one of the responses to the pandemic. We're also engaging the issue of how churches fund their feeding programs as a result of and in response to the pandemic. So it's been a rough time for many churches, but I can't think of one church that has said we are going to stop doing what we've been doing. I know some have decreased the level of operations and some may have paused temporarily, but none, as far as I know, have decided we can do this and will not do this anymore. What I know is that the churches have been looking for opportunities and looking for new sources and looking for new avenues through which they can minister. So food may be temporarily paused, but somehow another avenue may have opened up and the churches continue to minister.
Wow. And is there anything special that comes to mind where it concerns food and the church with what has been going on? Anything?
I have a special story. We enlisted the service of a consultant to help us to analyze our work. And so she has been going into some of our local churches to see how we have met the needs at that level and to help us to understand how we can revisit our service, as I mentioned earlier, address the gaps which may exist in offering of relief. And she tells a story of one particular church in Kingston in the inner city where a soup kitchen operates and the lunches are provided. And the children who are normally the ones at church in the days would collect the food. And then she tells us how the next thing they know is that the children disappear with the boxes of food. And when investigations are done, it is only to find out that the children take the food home.
Wow.
Because there are 2 or 3 other members of the family with whom that box of food will be shared.
Wow.
That to me is a story that really paints the picture of the depth of the need that exists in our country and puts us in the position of thinking that there is no way we can stop or give up on the ministry that we have embarked on in the name of Christ.
Indeed, Reverend Newton. And we never have enough time on Let's Talk Family, but we hope we were able to give you some idea of what these good neighbors are doing. Thanks, Reverend Dixon, for sharing with us. Thanks to you all for listening. Have a blessed rest of the evening, everyone. Keep safe, healthy, and blessed.
And you feel my life, you're everything to me, and there's nothing else I need anymore.
This was Let's Talk Family, a production of Family Life Ministries. If you or anyone you know would like advice and counseling, call us or head office at 1 Cecilio Avenue at 876-926-8101, 876-929-4360, or 876-920-1034, or center in Portmore at 117 Cecile Avenue at 876-939-7917.
This program was produced at the studio of the United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, located at 12 Carlton Crescent, Kingston 10. Call us at 876-926-6059 for your voiceover and broadcasting needs.